That's the coal process itself. What about getting the coal or extracting the coal? All right, coal mining, the strip mining, and the mountaintop removal process. These are ways we extract coal from the ground. Okay, the traditional way, like this picture in Scranton, is to create a coal mine. All right, where you go down, dig into the earth, go down the deep deposits of coal, create tunnels underground basically, and dig out the coal and bring it back up to the surface. When they did this, and I think many of you are familiar with the idea or the concept of black lung disease. All right, this is when coal miners would go down into the mines, all right, and start breathing in the coal dust. And as you dig through the coal, the dust gets thrown into the air. Some of that dust is very fine, can get deep in your lungs, and creates this thing called black lung disease, which prevents the breathing process from occurring. And unfortunately, it's like emphysema, and many miners have died from black lung disease. So that's an issue, a health issue, an environmental issue. Okay, and also while we're talking about this, when you're down in the coal mines, a lot of coal is mixed with methane gas. And so you have the problem of methane gas building up down there. And as you know, methane gas is flammable and is dangerous. So coal miners could also have the same exact situation with methane gas, in that could also cause illness within the miners, but more importantly, it could cause an explosion or some kind of fire down in the coal mine. Then you also have the old safety issues where the mine could collapse on the coal miners. So you're talking about a process in which it's very, very dangerous and at the same time does not produce all that much coal. And when you think about how much you need, it's just not enough. The other thing that coal mining has caused a lot in Pennsylvania, we have thousands of miles of streams that have this problem. Okay, it's called, hopefully you can see this okay, acid mine drainage. I told you before that coal has impurities in it, and one of those impurities is sulfur dioxide. And when you burn the coal, the sulfur dioxide goes in the atmosphere, mixes with the water, and causes sulfuric acid to come down in the form of acid rain. But what about having an open coal mine, rainwater getting into the coal mine, mixing with the coal that's left behind, and the water pulls out the sulfur, forms sulfuric acid, and then comes out and pollutes local streams? And that's what you see here. The iconic color of that stream being that yellowish, reddish, brownish color is indicative of a stream that's completely destroyed by acid mine drainage. And this is a big problem in Pennsylvania. We have spent millions and millions of dollars throughout the state trying to clean up local streams that are affected by acid mine drainage. And here's just a couple examples. So acid mine drainage is another environmental impact of coal mining, in this case in Pennsylvania. And one of the famous examples of a problem of coal mining in Pennsylvania is this coal mine in a town called Centralia. All right, Centralia is about literally just an hour and 20 minutes from here. Okay, and what happened was, in this poor town, it was a coal mining town, and in their coal mine, in 1962, people were throwing trash in the coal mine. For some reason, in 1962, the trash caught on fire. Okay, when that trash started to burn, they didn't get to it in time. It burned so deep they couldn't put out the fire. And the coal that was left in the coal mine continued to burn and continues to burn today. That was back in 1962. 50 years later, it is still burning, and they expect it to burn for about another 100 years. A disaster that we will have to live with for many, many years. In fact, last year we took a group of SAVE members to Centralia to take a look at the town, and we were able to see the smoke and gas still coming out of the ground. And that the hole where the gas was coming out is actually still hot. This is the town of Centralia today, the gas being toxic. They had to evacuate the town. Everyone moved out except for 2 homes. a church and a few township buildings. The rest of the town left. They destroyed their homes, and they left the land to go back through succession. And here you see some of the old places where they were digging out the coal and trying to put out the fire, which they couldn't. If you look over on the left there's one of the pipes that they put in the ground to vent the heat. And they actually tried pouring water down there to put out the fire. It didn't work. So they're now here more to vent the heat. And then, of course, the fire actually went underneath this highway, and they had to shut the highway down. It is now a ghost highway. And it's an incredible walk to take down this 4-lane highway. And you can see the highway breaking apart because underneath it, the coal mine is collapsing because the fire is burning through the coal. So we were able to see that on our trip. Here you can see a little bit of smoke coming up behind them as we were looking at the cracks in the highway. So they had to build a whole new highway to bypass this coal. And I have no idea how that picture got in there. But okay, so now coal mining seems to be a real problem. So let's go to another type of mining. Okay, and this type of mining is called strip mining. And strip mining is an issue a little bit different than coal mining itself. Okay, and I seem to have lost. I'm going to get here in a second. Pull back my thing. All right, so here you can see coal mining from the surface where you strip off the land on top, exposing shallow deposits of coal, all right, and then going in and digging that out. So now what you have is the ability to get all the coal in a large area as long as it's not too deep in the ground. And this process is called strip mining. And get rid of that. And the equipment they use is just unbelievable in size, and they just rip away at the land. Here you see a farm that did not sell their land to the company for the strip mining, and so the strip mining went right around the farm and took away all the land on the outside of that farm. Here you see some of the machinery that's involved. Just huge. The trucks that take away the coal are bigger than you can imagine, and this will give you some perspective. The trucks are so big they have their own office inside. And here you can see the damage that it causes to the ecosystem. What areas that were once forested are now stripped away. The coal is taken away, and then they're put back. And here's where you see an area that was strip mined, and they are putting back the land. They're supposed to reclaim it. Here, there we go. And they call this process reclamation. All right, let me give you. All right. And reclamation is when you are supposed to take an environment, okay? Let's try that. That's supposed to be an A. All right, you're reclaiming the land, all right, and putting it back to its original state. Okay, that's the process of reclamation. And so what they do is when they strip mine, okay, they then take the piles, put it back. Unfortunately, now it's all rock. And then what they try to do is get things to grow on top of it, in this case, grass. But you can see that it doesn't always work because there's no soil left. You stripped away all the soil. So the reclamation process for strip mining is not that good. And unfortunately, we have scars across Pennsylvania and across the entire country of strip mines that were not reclaimed properly. And unfortunately, you have tremendous ecosystem damage from strip mining. Okay. Now, if that's not bad enough, let's take a look at the worst process, at least environmentally, this idea called mountaintop removal. And it's exactly what it says. In Appalachia, they use this process quite often, or at least they did, where you actually go and you find a mountain that has a layer of coal in it. You then, literally using dynamite, blow off the top of the mountain and then take the coal. Now, the problem is that when you do this, you literally shear off the top of the mountain. So what do you do with all that material? that you shear off the top of the mountain. And so in the early 2000s, it became legal to take that material and dump it into the valleys where there are streams, because it was not, at that time, considered a pollutant. Therefore, they could take that material, dump it into the valleys, and fill up the valleys with this rock material that they were taking away to get to the coal. Mountaintop removal is just a completely destructive process. And here's a great picture in Kentucky of the material that they piled up in the valley, okay, through the process of mountaintop removal to get the coal. Now today, the EPA now has considered that material to be harmful to the environment, and you are no longer allowed or to get a permit to take the mountaintops and put them in valleys anymore, because in the valleys are all the streams, okay, and aquatic ecosystems. So that is illegal today, but for several years we were doing this, and it became the favorite way of taking coal out of the ground, because you can get large amounts of coal in very mountainous areas and do it very quickly and very easily. All right, and here you can see a view of the valley and how they filled it in. You have the pond at the bottom, which is capturing all of the leftover coal that wasn't taken away. And another quick reclamation explanation where it says mining companies are required to restore the area around the mine and the surrounding environment to their pre-mine conditions, or at least a stable condition where they shut down when they shut down the mine. Okay, that's what reclamation is supposed to be. And unfortunately, when you look at reclaimed land, it's not quite that way. All right, and that's an oversight of our regulations and our ability to control this process. Although here was a creative reclamation project. If you look very closely, you'll see that there's a mountaintop that has been removed right in front of you. This is the top of the mountain right here that got removed. All right, and if you see that picture up close, you will see that it is a golf course. They took the top of the mountain and flattened it and then made it into a golf course, which is kind of a unique reclamation project there. So overall, when you look at coal, it is dirty to the air, it is dirty to the water, it is dirty to the land. It is very destructive environmentally, but it burns and it produces much needed electricity. So the question is, do the benefits of producing cheap, reliable energy, because the amount of coal we have in this country will last us hundreds of years, does that benefit outweigh the negatives of the pollution and the environmental impact? And that is a question we all must consider and think about when we think about coal. Do we use coal for its value and its electrical generation, or do we see it as a source, a dirty source of energy, one that should not be used because of its environmental consequences? That is something for you to think about, and I thank you for once again listening to our lecture in AP Environmental Science.